Now, there is a very interesting sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya 5.3.26 where it is mentioned that there are 5 ways a person attains Aryahood, 5 ways. This is very interesting. The first one is listening to Dhamma. When you are listening to Dhamma, and then the joy arises, If you have that affinity for Dhamma, when you listen to Dhamma, the joy naturally arises in you. And when the joy rises, then your mind becomes peaceful, and then it becomes tranquil. And that tranquil mind easily becomes concentrated. And the concentrated mind, with that concentrated mind, insight easily arises. So the first one, listening to Dhamma. When we listen to Dhamma, that's the first way we can become an Arya. The second one is teaching Dhamma. When we teach Dhamma also, we have to understand the Dhamma, reflect on the Dhamma as we teach. And from there also joy arises. And in the same way, the mind becomes tranquil and concentrated. And insight arises so that a person attains the stage of Aryahood. The third one is repeating Dhamma. Nowadays, not many people repeat Dhamma, but during the time of the Buddha, this was quite common because they did not have books, So they would pass the Dhamma from generation to generation, and it was a duty of monks to repeat the Dhamma. If they are going to hand it over to the next generation, they have to be very familiar, so they spend a lot of time repeating the Dhamma. So when you repeat the Dhamma, the more times you repeat the Dhamma, just like studying a sutta, as you study a sutta, the first time you read the sutta, you catch certain points, but not all the points. The second time you read the same sutta or hear it, there are more points you'll understand. And the third time, the fourth time, in the same way, the more times you come across it, either study it or listen to it or repeat it, the more familiar you become with it as you grasp it more. So that is repeating Dhamma. The third way to attain Aryahood. Now the fourth way is reflecting on Dhamma. That means you sort of try to think on the Dhamma that you have heard, to ponder over it, to reflect on it, whether it's true or not, whether you can see it in your everyday life and the different aspects of it. So by reflecting on the Dhamma, the insight arises. So that is the fourth way a person becomes an Arya. The fifth way is during meditation itself. According to the sutta, it says reflecting on the Samadhi Nimitta. Samadhi Nimitta is the object of concentration. Whatever your object may be, whether you are reflecting on the loathsomeness of the body, or you are reflecting on the object could be your mind, or one of the 4 objects of Satipatthana, and then insight arises. So you see, out of these 5 ways, only one is during meditation, and the other 4 are out of meditation. The first one, listening to Dhamma, teaching Dhamma, repeating Dhamma, reflecting on Dhamma, and the last one during meditation, reflecting on the object of concentration. It's very important to remember this. Now, in the Majjhima Nikaya, number 43, it is stated, after you have right view, if there are 5 conditions that support right view, that will lead you to final liberation. That means Arahanthood can be attained by a person with right view if there are 5 other important factors. The first one is Sila, moral conduct. Second one is Dhamma Savanang, listening to Dhamma. Third one is Dhamma Sakacca, discussion of Dhamma. Fourth one is Samatha, tranquilization of the mind. Fifth one is Vipassana, contemplation. So these are the 5 conditions. So you see, samatha and vipassana are the 2 things that you can do during meditation. So besides meditation, there are another 3 factors. You have to keep your sila, moral conduct. And then you have to listen to Dhamma savana. And then another is Dhamma sakacha, discussion of Dhamma. So it doesn't mean just by meditation you can become an arahant. On top of meditation, you have to study or listen to the suttas and also discuss the suttas with others so that you have a more deeper understanding of it. So this is quite clear here that listening to Dhamma and Dhamma discussion and Sila support meditation. Now the final sutta I'd like to quote to you is Samyutta Nikaya 22.101, and that's the parable of the carpenter's axe handle. You know, the axe is an instrument for planing wood. When I was young, the axe that they used to have 2 handles for use to hold, one jutting out on each side. You hold the 2 handles and you move the axe like this to plane the wood. And during the Buddha's days, I believe it wasn't like that. They used 1 hand only. They used 1 hand and they plane the wood. Because it is mentioned in the sutta that after the carpenter has used his axe for some time, his finger marks were imprinted, indented on the wood. You see, he could see his thumb mark, his finger marks on the wood of the axe handle. And the Buddha said, this carpenter doesn't know how much of the wood he wore away by holding it yesterday. He doesn't know how much of the wood he wears away today, or how much of the wood he wears away at any other time. But he knows definitely the wood has worn away by his fingers because of the impressions on the wood. So in the same way, the Buddha said, when we cultivate the spiritual path, we cannot tell how much of the asavas can be translated as uncontrolled mental outflows. It also means the defilements. How much of the defilements we wore away yesterday or today or at any other time. But over the years, as we practice the spiritual path, as we see ourselves progressing, less defilements, and then we begin to lessen our greed and lessen our attachments, and our ego becomes smaller as we become more humble, and all the good qualities grow and all the bad qualities reduce. Then we know that we are progressing on the spiritual path. The most important quality is the quality of humility. Some people who are new to the Dhamma, you find they are very enthusiastic about meditation, and they think after meditating for a short while that they have attained some stage, and instead of becoming more humble, the ego increases. When their friend tells them that their friend don't believe that they are already sotapanna, they get angry with their friend, and they don't want to talk to their friend. They feel insulted. So you can see such a person doesn't understand the Dhamma. This attainment in the spiritual path is not a sudden thing. It comes slowly, very progressively. The Buddha said the spiritual path is like the ocean. It doesn't deepen suddenly. As you walk towards the ocean, it becomes deeper and deeper gradually. So in the same way, when we make progress in the spiritual path, it's a very gradual process. And over the years, as you practice, you see yourself changing for the better. Then you know, just like the carpenter knows that the axe handle is being worn away. So in the same way, we know our asavas are being worn away as we progress. And it is that kind of progress when people see you, they become impressed, and without telling them much, they are impressed, and they will also change towards you, and they will be very happy with you practicing the spiritual path. There are some people, sometimes, they feel inspired. They want to teach somebody in their house. But if their temper is still so big, still so fierce, the people in the house are not inspired. So whatever you say, they will not want to come and listen to the Dhamma. They show no interest because they find you are not making any progress. But when you yourself make progress, then they become so impressed that they will come and follow you. The question is, why do Theravadan monks eat meat? Now, there's a lot of views about meat eating. And so, to know what is the Buddha's view about meat eating, we have to look into the suttas and the Vinaya. Now, when we look into the Vinaya books, it is quite obvious that the Buddha and his disciples ate meat. Why? Because in the Vinaya, you find that the Buddha told his monks not to take 10 kinds of meat. Only 10 kinds of meat. The first one is human meat. It's specifically mentioned because there was a lady actually who offered her meat. She cut off her flesh to offer in the Vinaya. Because she promised to get some meat soup for the monk. The monk was sick. It so happened there are certain days in India where nobody sells meat. So she already made that promise to that sick monk. And when she found that there was no meat available, disciples of the Buddha, they are not allowed to slaughter an animal. So, because she has so much faith in the Buddha and his disciples, that she cut off her own flesh and asked the servant to cook the soup and give it to the monk. So later when the Buddha came to know about it, then the Buddha made this rule that human flesh is not allowed. Then the other meat that are not allowed is elephant flesh and horse flesh. These two particularly because they belong to the king. And sometimes people steal the king's elephant and horse for the meat. And the Buddha was afraid that if his disciples ate that, they would be implicated in the crime. So he stopped them from doing that. And then the others are wild animals. Tiger, leopard, bear, snake, dog, and such animals. The reason is the Buddha's disciples used to go from village to village and beg for their food. And people gave them this meat. And being it is one of the meat is generally allowed by the Buddha if it's cooked and given by people. So after the Buddha's disciples ate this meat and they went into the forest, for example, if they took leopard meat, when they go into the forest, they sweat, and when they start to sweat, it gives off that smell, and then they were attacked by leopard. If they ate dog meat, as a result, when they walk on the streets, the dogs will bark and chase them. So, because of that, the Buddha disallowed his monks from eating those 10 kinds of meat. But other than those 10 kinds of meat, that means are allowed. That means chicken, ducks, pigs, goat, beef, those normal meat were allowed. Now, another instance in the Vinaya is the Buddha, in one of the precepts, the Buddha said, if a monk is not sick, he's not allowed for special food like milk. He's not allowed to ask a lay person specifically for special food, like, unless of course the lay person asks him. Otherwise, he's not allowed to ask for special food like milk, honey, meat, fish, etc. But if he's sick, he is allowed. So this again shows that the Buddha allowed his monks to eat meat. And there were other instances in the Vinaya which showed that the Buddha himself and his disciples, there are several incidents. There's no need to go into detail. But another Vinaya precept which shows the Buddha allowed is that there are certain allowances that a monk is not to eat from noon up to the next dawn, right? But there are certain allowances. For example, oils. Oil of fish, like cod liver oil, is allowed. Okay, oil of pigs, pork oil. A monk is allowed to keep the pork oil to act as a supplement. And I think alligator oil, bear oil, these are allowed. And then also, if a monk is sick, in the evening, he can drink clear meat soup. Because in the afternoon, a monk is not allowed solid food. That's why he's not allowed to eat the meat, but the soup is allowed to drink. So these instances show in the Vinaya that the Buddha and his disciples did eat meat. In the suttas, it's also very clear, because in the Majjhima Nikaya, there's one sutta called the Jivaka Sutta, where this doctor, Jivaka Kumarabacha, is a personal physician of the king. He came to ask the Buddha. He said, Lord, I hear, is it true that you eat meat purposely slaughtered for you? He was not happy. He heard that the Buddha ate meat that was purposely slaughtered for him. And the Buddha said, no, we don't eat meat that is purposely slaughtered for us. The Buddha said, only there are 3 conditions are meat allowed to the monk, to the Buddha and his disciples. The 3 conditions are:
you don't see, hear, or suspect. That is, you don't see that the animal was purposely or specifically killed for you, and you don't hear that the animal was purposely or specifically killed for you, and you don't suspect that the animal was purposely or specifically killed for you.
With these 3 conditions, then that meat is allowed. That means if a lay person buys the meat from the market that is already slaughtered, the animal, it is allowed. And there's another sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya where General Siha, a very famous general, he was a disciple of some external ascetics. And then he came to visit the Buddha, and then he got converted by the Buddha's teachings and became a disciple of the Buddha. Then he invited the Buddha to his house for a meal, and he served meat to the Buddha. And then the external ascetics were jealous, and they ran around spreading the word that the Buddha ate meat which was purposely slaughtered for him. So this general got very annoyed. The general said, we don't eat meat that is purposely, we don't serve meat that is purposely slaughtered for the Buddha and his disciples. Only allowed meat. So from here, again you see that the Buddha and his disciples, there's another sutta called the Amaganda Sutta in the Sutta Nipata, where the Buddha recalled the previous Buddha, which was Buddha Kassapa. It seems that one external ascetic came and reviled, scolded the Buddha Kassapa for eating all kinds of rubbish, all kinds of flesh. And Buddha Kassapa replied, saying that the defilement is not in the meat we eat. The defilement is in our mind. So these Vinaya and Suttas show that the Buddha and his disciples ate meat. Now what is the reason? The reason is that we cannot run away from being a party to killing of animals indirectly. Because by eating the allowed meat that the Buddha put with the 3 conditions, you are not directly involved with the killing of animal, right? Perhaps indirectly, but indirectly is not to do with karma, because karma, you must have the intention to do evil, right? And then you do evil. If you don't have the intention, then there is no evil done. Just as you drive a car and you kill a small boy who runs across the road, if there's no intention, there is no karma, right? But there is cause and effect, because after killing the boy, you might get sued, right? There is worldly cause and effect, not Buddhist cause and effect. So in the same way, by living every day, we are causing the killing of animals indirectly. How? all of us want to stay in houses, right? Because you want to stay in houses, people have to clear the forest to build housing estates. In the process of clearing the forest, a lot of animals are killed, right? You want to use electricity, right? Everybody wants to use electricity. Because of that, the government builds a dam, dams up the river, and the river becomes flooded. In the process, a lot of animals die. That also will contribute to the killing of animals indirectly. We want to use household items, right? Plastics, clothes and all that. They have to make factories. To make factories, they have to clear vast areas of forests. In the process, a lot of animals are killed. Again, you contribute to the killing of animals, right? And even you want to eat vegetables and these fruits, you contribute to the killing of animals. How? They have to clear forests again to plant these fruits and vegetables. And after that, when the farmer, he sees any caterpillar on the plant, he'll spray and kill the caterpillar, right? And then he finds any snails around, he will kill the snails. All because you want to eat vegetables and you want to eat fruits. So indirectly, you can't help it at all. You know, every day the government employs people to go and look for dogs without a license. And they shoot these dogs. Why? Because of you and me. Just living itself, we are causing the death of dogs, even if you are vegetarians, right? Now you can't use that argument that because you eat meat, you create a demand, and because of your demand for meat, they have to kill animals to provide the supply of meat. That argument is not valid because it is a worldly cause and effect. If that argument is valid, then you cannot drive a car, you cannot even sit in a bus, you cannot sit in a car. Why? Because every day, cars, vehicles on the road are killing 2,000 human beings a day on the road every day. So by driving a car, you are encouraging the car industry to make more cars. And you are indirectly killing human beings, which is worse than killing animals. And countless animals are killed every day by cars on the road, countless. And by buying a car, you are encouraging the killing of countless animals. So that kind of argument is not valid. So what is important is we follow the Buddha's teachings. And if you want to eat meat, it must have these three conditions. Then our conscience is clear.